The themes discussed in this story is, of course, power, property, and identity, because long time ago, property created identity. If you had lots of lands and properties, then you are a wealthy person and you are a high class person. Okay, changing interlopers, man versus nature, and death. Let's talk about symbolism. We already discussed symbolism very well last week. We have here the rifles. Of course, the rifle that Georg also carries represents the threat of death. Both of them have rifles that they were planning to use as a threat of death. The beech tree, despite Ulrich and Georg both being armed with the intent to shoot, a huge falling beech tree is what nearly kills them. So this is just a sign that nature is more powerful, and God are of course nature and God are more powerful. The wolves that appear over the hill when Ulrich and Georg call for help also demonstrate both that the power of nature is more important than man. We have, of course, the genre of this story is kind of satirical. The Interlopers is a thriller that manages to satirize certain elements of human nature, like to make fun or highlight certain points in human nature. The tone is dark and removed all the time. The mood at the beginning of the story is ominous because it starts with violence, okay, and rivalry between Ulrich and Georg. As for the setting, we already said that it's in the Carpathian Mountains in a place known today as Romania, and it was a very stormy night. Literary devices used in this story. Let's start with the similes. We have the roebuck, which usually kept in the sheltered hollows during a wind, were running like driven things tonight. Okay, so this is the example of simile. Also, we have imagery. As Ulrich wanders from his hunting party at the beginning of the story, the narrative uses auditory imagery, things related to what you hear, to describe the sound of the woods around him. We also have irony, and here it's a situational irony, of course, when the same reason that actually was behind hating each other became the same reason that made them forget all about it and become friends. Of course, here that the fact that the beech tree or nature was stronger than them and um, uh, was more dominant is ironical. As for the allegory, the interlopers can be read all of it as an allegory for the folly of war, especially that it was written after World War One, so kind of it showed the follies or the mistakes or faults in wars. We also have foreshadowing as I said in the example I already gave you from the beginning, the storm restless animals. Okay, and at the end it turns out that the wolves were there. um, his observations of the woods around him precedes the story's actions and foreshadows the violence that follows. Also, from the beginning, when they started describing Georg and how Georg was in the woods with a hunting party, it foreshadows that there's going to be a confrontation.